Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Big Blue Sports. I am your host, Matt Volz, a junior here at Fredonia. So today is going to be a very interesting show. I wasn't here last week, of course, as a week ago at this time, we were on our way to New York City for our annual Intercollegiate Broadcasting Systems Conference, and congratulations to our very own Dan Quagliana for taking home the National Award for the Best Liner or Sweeper. It's the second year in a row that Fredonia Radio Systems has won that award, which is a national award, which is definitely a very big deal. Both of our stations were also national finalists for the very best station in the nation, which is just absolutely incredible, to be in the top 3 to 5% of the best stations in the nation. And it's technically international because there is an international college that also is there as well that comes up from the Philippines. So definitely a huge honor. That's why I was not with you last week. We are here today. And it's going to be a little bit of a packed show because next week is our spring break, so I will not be with you next week either. And I am also currently so with it being March and with March Madness approaching, of course, Selection Sunday is this upcoming Sunday to determine what the 68-team field for the NCAA tournament will be. And, of course, conference tournaments going on right now. Today is the second round of the Atlantic 10 tournament, and my hometown St. Bonaventure Bonnies are actually playing right now. They are the 8th seed in the Atlantic 10 tournament. They got the bye through the first round, so they didn't play yesterday, but they are currently playing against Duquesne, who is the number 9 seed, and it's not going so well right now. Just about 5 minutes left in the first half. The Bonnies are down 26-18. I am going to be watching the game through the entirety of the show, so I may get a little distracted at certain points, but this is a big game for St. Bonaventure, and I'll get to the reasons why in a little bit, because this really is a do-or-die game, and this whole tournament is do-or-die. St. Bonaventure has been nowhere near good enough to earn an at-large bid to either the NCAA or NIT tournament, and I think that it's in the past, their overall record's 21-10. And in the past, that would have been, out of the Atlantic 10, that might have been good enough to get you an at-large into the NIT. But I don't think it's going to be St. Bonaventure. Of course, they went 12-1 in non-conference play, but played a very soft non-conference schedule. And they went 9-9 in Atlantic 10 play, very pedestrian. They had a couple of bad losses, including a brutal Quad 4 loss to LaSalle at home. And I'll get into later when we talk about March Madness in the second half of the show today. I'll explain what the quadrants are, what the net ranking is, and how that is a good tool for evaluating teams that should or should not get into the NCAA tournament. But first, we're going to talk about our very own college teams. And first, for Fredonia, one of our teams is doing very, very well so far this spring. The Bonnies just missed a layup. Are you kidding me? Pretty well so far this season. The women's lacrosse team is off to a 4-1 start, and they had a big win yesterday at home against Allegheny College, a 14-4 win in a game that was 1-1 at the end of the first quarter, and then the Blue Devils just really completely pulled away. Emma Cockrell with 5 goals in this game, and I talked to Coach Tori Poffenberger at the start of the season in an article that I wrote in the Leader, and she talked about how there's really a lot of cohesion within this lacrosse team. There's a lot of the mentality of playing for each other within the team, and that's really shown through the first through their first 5 games. Their first game of the year was a 2-goal loss at Nazareth up in Rochester. And that was a game when they played Nazareth last year. They got blown out. They lost, I think it was like 13-6 or something like that. They lose by 2. They lost 11-9, and they haven't lost since. And all 4 of their wins have been by 3 goals or more. Their closest win was 2 days ago against Chatham, a game they won 10-7. And their other games, of course, the 14-4 win over Allegheny yesterday. Back on March 8th, last Saturday, a 12-8 win over Baldwin Wallace. And they do have a road win this year, a 19-10 win at Alfred, which was 8 days ago. So upcoming next on their schedule, they're actually headed down south, as baseball and softball are too. We'll get to them in a minute. They're headed down to Puerto Rico for a spring trip this year. It's something, I wrote an article about this trip specifically. And Coach Poffenberger told me that it was a trip that she took when she was a senior on her college team. And when she started coaching here, the lacrosse team was down in Florida 2 seasons ago on a trip, and she got an email from the company who runs the tournament down there. They're called Puerto Rico College Sports Tours. And what they do is they bring a lot of, it's not just lacrosse, they also do basketball and volleyball as well. And they bring American college teams down there to play. And it's sort of an opportunity to grow the game there, which has been really, really cool. And she said it's a trip she took as a senior at her college. They called her while the team was in Florida 2 years ago. And her goal, she told me her goal is to take these types of trips every other year. So 2 years ago, she said, not next year, but the year after. And they've got 2 games down in Puerto Rico next Monday at 9:30 a.m. against Worcester State University and 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday, March 18th against Springfield College. And that's it for their non-conference games on the season. Their conference games start when we come back 11 a.m. Saturday, March 22nd at Plattsburgh is when the SUNYAC slate starts. Their first home conference game, Saturday, March 29th, a 1 p.m. game against New Paltz. Other teams heading down south to the warmer weather. The baseball team, they're off to a one, and they've only played 1 game so far this year. They had a game at Keuka College on Tuesday, a game that the Blue Devils won 9-1, an excellent, excellent game. They jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the first inning and really never looked back. Out-hit Keuka 13-4 in this game. Their first run came off of stealing home, which is just phenomenal to see. So they're 1-0 on the season, and next up on the schedule is their spring training. They are headed down to Florida, what is called the Russ Matt Central Florida Invitational. They've got several games down there. One of those games actually against former SUNYAC opponent Brockport. That's on Wednesday, March 19th, a week from yesterday. I still have it in my mind that the show is on Wednesdays. It was on Wednesday for 5 semesters. Now it's on Thursday, and I still can't get it straightened out. But yeah, they play Brockport on Wednesday, March 19th at 12:30 p.m. They've got some other games. Their first games, they have doubleheaders a lot of days that they're down there. So their first games are actually in 2 days. Coming up on Saturday, they have a 9 a.m. first pitch against Ohio Wesleyan University and 12:15 against Gwynedd Mercy University. So their games they play down there, and they're not fully done with non-conference play. When they kind of sprinkle in non-conference games throughout, they don't do it like basketball or lacrosse do, where you have your non-conference games, all non-conference games, and then all conference games. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit more interspersed. But when they get done with their spring training, they have a weekend series at Oswego, 3 p.m. on Friday, March 28th, and noon on Saturday, March 29th. The Bonnies just hit a 3 to pull within 5. That's about 2:40 to go in the first half. Duquesne's up 28-23. They'll be at home again on Sunday, March 30th, 1 p.m., a doubleheader against Pitt Greensburg. Softball also getting ready to head down south. They have not played a game yet. Their first games of the season are going to be on Sunday down in Florida. They have a doubleheader, 9 a.m. against Springfield College and 11:15 against Rowan University. And they have a handful of games down there as well when they come back. Their first, I guess you would say, regular season game is at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, March 26th, a doubleheader at Geneseo, former SUNYAC opponent, and their first home games of the season, Friday, April 4th, a doubleheader against conference rival Morrisville that starts at 3 p.m. So teams heading down south to hopefully some warmer weather, although it's not too bad out today. It's 40 degrees. It's going to be nice the next 2 days. I'm going up. I'm very excited this weekend, of course, because this weekend is spring break. I'm very excited that I am going to be going up to Niagara Falls, going on a nice little weekend trip. My girlfriend and I have a little getaway planned, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Very much looking forward to it and looking forward to a week off, as I'm sure most other Fredonia students are. So I mentioned that this show is going to be a little bit different. I have more segments than I usually do. So we're going to kind of combine one, and we're going to talk about the Buffalo Bandits now. So the Bandits coming off of a little bit of a rough loss, their second loss of the season. Both of those losses have been at home. lost to the Calgary Roughnecks 17-11 last Saturday. Now, the deal with Calgary is that, of course, their netminder, Nick Rose, was longtime goaltender for the Toronto Rock, the NLL's goalie of the year last year, a finalist for league MVP in recent memory as well. The Toronto Rock have had a mess of a season so far, and of course, before the trade deadline, one of several big-time deals in the NLL, the Rock trading Nick Rose, their goaltender, to the Calgary Roughnecks. Now, Rose has a somewhat lengthy history of really struggling in Buffalo. He's had some really bad career struggles playing with the Rock against the Bandits, and that didn't carry over to this game with Calgary. He talked about how it's kind of a different energy, that it's not, now he's with this new team, and he's able to sort of channel that and put that away. Part of the issue with the Bandits, so you give up 17 goals. That's a lot, obviously, and I think that part of it is that, and I'll be fully honest, I was in New York City. That was the night of our awards ceremony. I did not catch a lot of this game. This was a game where Vince struggled. And Vince struggled. The defense struggled. The majority of their problems were the fourth quarter. I mean, it was the Bandits were down 10-9 going into the fourth quarter. It's a one-goal game going into the fourth. They got outscored 7-2 in the final 15 minutes. That is very much not like this Bandits team. To the Bandits usually, as a matter of fact, Buffalo usually does that to their opponents. They are a team that is used to, they go into the fourth quarter with a close game, and then they go on a crazy run. Think back to the playoff game against Toronto last year when they were down, and I'm trying to remember how much exactly they were down by. I don't remember. They were down, what was it like? I think it was 8-4. They were down 8-4 going into the fourth quarter, and they rallied off 6 unanswered to beat the Rock 10-8 and advance to the finals. That's what we're used to seeing from Buffalo. We haven't seen that. So it's an unusually bad game. Captain Steve Priolo also with 16 penalty minutes, which is not great and not at all what you would expect from someone who's a leader on your team and has been with the team for a very long time. The score bug just went out in the Bonnie's game. That's about a minute to go. I have no idea what the score is, but it's really bizarre to see that happen to the Bandits. They're not a team that usually has those types of struggles. And so I really am wondering defensively, obviously Matt Spanger, one of your defensemen, is out for the year with injury. That sort of elevates other players into roles that they might not necessarily play. And that's not only, you have younger players like Zach Belter, former St. Bonaventure Bonnie, who's a defenseman. You put guys like Zach Belter and Cam Wires, that puts more strain on those guys. Paul Dawson, the longtime veteran, those guys have to be out there longer. Then you put a depth defenseman like Justin Martin out in much more of a prominent role. You have to have some of your transition players play defense. You have to put Ian McKay or Nick Weiss or Steve Priolo back on defense. And it's tricky in front of Matt Vince. And Vince has been one of the top goalies in the league this year. But the fact of the matter is that he's 42 years old. And that is something to be concerned about. I don't know if this is his last year. It's something that has been discussed, I think. But I'm not really sure if it's going to be his last year or how long he's going to stick around. But definitely a game that not accustomed to seeing. The Bandits' individual leader in points was Josh Byrne with 5. And that's not, you're used to seeing a little bit better from Josh Byrne. I think that you would want better than that. The leader in goals for the Bandits was Kyle Buchanan, and he only had 2. So it's a little bit weird. There's something technical going on in the Bonnies game. I don't know exactly what's up, but there's 41.2 seconds left in the half. There's no score bug at the bottom. And I keep seeing Mark Schmidt and Duquesne's coach going over and talking to the refs. So they got a timeout right now. So they got to figure something out about that. I'm not really sure. Not really too sure what the issue is there down in D.C., but hopefully they'll get that straightened out. Either way, I know the Bonnies are still losing. But it's not only that, look at what happened at the faceoff dot. Connor Farrell kind of got mauled at the faceoff dot, going just 11 of 32. The Bandits also only drew 2 penalties in this game. Calgary only had 4 penalty minutes. Buffalo had 22. Buffalo was 0 for 2 on the man advantage. Calgary was 3 for 6. And those are not the numbers that are going to lead to a winning formula. Now, fortunately for Buffalo, they're still sitting at 9-2. They're still in first place in the league, even though Saskatchewan has unseated them in the official power rankings. But coming up next for the Bandits, they have a rematch against this very same team. They are actually headed to Calgary on Saturday to play the Roughnecks. And it's an opportunity, it's their 4th meeting with Nick Rose this season. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And the rest of the season, so the rest of our break, they have a doubleheader next weekend, 1 home, 1 away. They are at home on Friday the 21st at 7:30 for a matchup with the Las Vegas Desert Dogs in a game that they absolutely should win. And then on Saturday, they are heading to our state's capital to take on the Albany Firewolves in a finals rematch from last year at 7 p.m. And both of those games are part of the Tucker Out Lymphoma Cup, which, of course, I've talked about it on the show before, but there was a young lacrosse fan by the name of Tucker Williams. And the connection is that, so Tucker's father, Sean Williams, is the head coach and general manager of the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, and his brother, Dyson, plays for the Albany Firewolves. So a little over 10 years ago, Tucker Williams was battling lymphoma. And the Bandits, because Sean, at this time, how it started, Sean was playing for the Bandits at the time. And so they started a game that they would play every year that was called Tucker Out Lymphoma Night. And very similar to Hockey Fights Cancer Night. And where fans would get, placards, and they could write who they fight for, and they'll have a moment everyone raises them up. And Tucker was able to go to the game that year, and it was a really special moment. And he ended up passing away later in that year. That was in 2014. He was, it's his older brother, Dyson, of course, has gone on to play. His father, after retiring from his playing career, has gone on to coach. So what they've done is now because Dyson is a rookie for Albany, and Sean is coaching Vegas. And so what they've done between these 3 teams is they've developed a concept that's called the Tucker Out Lymphoma Cup. And every time 2 of those 3 teams play, Buffalo, Vegas, and Albany, they do a Tucker Out Lymphoma theme game. So that'll be the theme next Friday as well. Just a really, really neat thing that lacrosse is doing, and it shows how tight-knit of a community the game of lacrosse is. It's honestly just, it's such a beautiful thing to have that level of connection within the game. It's really something special to see. So we're going to take a short break, and when I come back, I'm going to talk about the Sabres, their loss to Detroit last night, and what the rest of their season looks like going forward. Spoiler alert, it's not very good. I do want to say I did get the score alert. It is halftime. Duquesne leads St. Bonaventure 34-25 at the half. So not looking great for the hometown Bonnies, but hopefully things will change there. We're going to take a short break and then discuss brackets later. Thanks for tuning in to Big Blue Sports here on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.
Are you feeling the love? Keep listening to WCVF 88.9 The Voice to stay groovy.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia. WNYF's television premiere late night talk show, A Sit Down with Brock, is having its final season. Expect more off-the-wall banter, unpredictable zingers from the host, and hilarious interviews. If you're interested and don't want to miss out, it premieres tonight at 10 p.m. on the WNYF television YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/WNYF television. I know Brock's very, very excited about that, so definitely be sure. It'll be a lot of fun to tune in tonight when that premieres at 10 p.m. So it is now time for the deeply, deeply unfortunate, sad, and depressing segment of Big Blue where Matt has to talk about the Sabres. So I will be fully honest. I did not catch the majority of the game last night. There were a lot of other things. I was anchoring for news over at WNYF and had some other things I had to get done. So I missed a decent chunk of the game. So didn't go well, obviously, and I haven't seen a whole lot that happened, but I was hearing sort of what happened. The penalty minutes in this game are unbelievable. Buffalo had 83 penalty minutes in this game. Detroit had 67. And I kept hearing, I was getting texts from my mom throughout the game, and she was telling me how the officials were not great, and even the national announcers for the game on TNT were talking about how it was not a very well officiated game. The Sabres wore their goat head uniforms on the road last night. It was a very interesting uniform matchup. The Red Wings wore their outdoor game uniforms that they wore in their Stadium Series game when they played against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And the Sabres wore their goat heads. So it was a 7-3 loss for Buffalo. First star of the game, Buffalo native Red Wings winger Patrick Kane, 2 goals, 3 assists. There's a surprise. The Sabres followed the typical script in this game of scoring first and then not caring anymore. So Tage Thompson scores his 34th of the year about 7.5 minutes into the game. Buffalo's up 1-0, assist coming from Bo Byram. And then, of course, go figure, the Sabres just kind of give up. So 12.5 minutes in, Marco Kasper ties the game, assist from Edvinsson and Kane to tie it 1-1. A couple minutes later, Alex DeBrincat scores his 30th of the year, assist coming from Kane and Kasper to put the Red Wings up 2-1. And then with less than a minute to go in the period, Kane scores a power play goal to give Detroit a 3-1 lead. DeBrincat and Dylan Larkin getting the assist. It's 3-1. However, with less than a minute to go in the period, recent acquisition Josh Norris scores his first goal as a Buffalo Sabre. Of course, Norris coming over in the trade with Ottawa that took place last weekend when the Sabres sent Dylan Cousins to the Ottawa Senators. Norris scores his 21st goal of the year, his first as a Sabre. Assists coming from Zach Benson and Tage Thompson. Buffalo down 3-2 at the end of the first. In the second period, no scoring for a while, and then Vladimir Tarasenko scores his 9th of the year, the old veteran, and he gets his 9th of the year. Assist from Dylan Larkin, 4-2 Red Wings. Sabres get a power play late in the period, and Zach Benson scores his 10th of the year. Owen Power and Ryan McLeod pick up the assists. Buffalo down by just 1 going into the third. They're down 4-3, but Sabres find themselves shorthanded yet again, and yet again, Detroit makes them pay. And it's Patrick Kane with his second goal of the game. Assists from DeBrincat and Lucas Raymond. I didn't realize Lucas Raymond has 45 assists on the year. That's kind of crazy. Detroit takes a 5-3 lead. A few minutes later, Marco Kasper scores his second of the game. Assist from DeBrincat and Kane. 6-3 Red Wings. And then with about 5.5 minutes to go, the Red Wings get another power play. And Mo Seider joins in on the fun. He scores with assists coming from Larkin and Raymond. So Raymond has 46 on the assists on the year. Detroit wins at 7-3. So my thoughts on the game. I know that, I heard that the officiating was very much not great and very much kind of one-sided. And my response to that is, who cares? To be completely honest, my response is, who cares? Officiating doesn't make you lose a game by 4. That's That's pretty much it. I mean, I can yell and scream until I'm red in the face about how the Zebras aren't fair, but I mean, don't be a terrible hockey team. Like, that's kind of all it is. I'm not sure how you can look at the Buffalo Sabres and not just say that they're genuinely terrible. They are. They just are. I don't think that that's unfair to say that. They are. They've had awful season after awful season. They are. It's not unfair to say that at all. And I'll back that up absolutely. And I will defend some players. I mean, obviously, Tage Thompson is a star, very elite, top forward. Rasmus Dahlin, I would say, is a top 5 defenseman in the NHL, and I don't think too many people would argue with me on that. And it gets a little difficult to defend some of the other players on the team. There's other guys who have been great in their role, like Jordan Greenway has been mostly very good in his role. Ryan McLeod's done a nice job. If you put him in the third line center role, he's done well. But I'm going to defend a player. I'm going to take a minute here to defend a player who it is not very popular to defend. And that player is Owen Power. So Power has there always seems to be a player, and it's usually one of the Sabres' more high-end players, who always seems to draw the ire of Sabres fans for not being better or whatever else. And Owen Power is that lightning rod, absolutely, especially now that Dylan Cousins is gone. Now it's all Power, and the phone's ringing. I'm not really sure why. But it's so interesting. I'm going to let it ring. It'll go to voicemail. It's okay. So it's so interesting to me that, Power a lot of times gets criticized for not being a more physical player, right? And I understand that to an extent. I'll give you a perfect example. So I don't know what Detroit goal it was on. I think it was one of Marco Kasper's goals. I don't know which one it was. Or you know what? It might have actually been. It might have been Tarasenko's goal. I think it might have been. It might have been Tarasenko's goal. So what happened is, I'm gonna double check that, and just see if it was Kasper's goal or if it was. Or if I'm just going crazy, which is entirely possible. But so what happened was Ryan McLeod has the puck at center ice. McLeod turns over the puck, and it's taken by Kasper, and he goes down the wall, absolutely dusts Connor Clifton, makes Clifton look ridiculous, circles behind the net, comes out in front to the right circle, and then takes a wrist shot and beats Luukkonen over the right shoulder. Owen Power is in front of the net battling with Dylan Larkin trying to clear him out. Sabres Buzz, one of the fan accounts, tweeted out this video talking about how unbelievably soft Owen Power is and how terrible Owen Power is. And I'm not kidding. I watched this as I was getting ready this morning, and I had to watch the video like 5 times over, because I genuinely didn't understand where the goal was Owen Power's fault. Like, yeah, could Owen Power have done a better job tying up Larkin in front of the net? Yes. But Larkin also didn't, Larkin wasn't screening Luukkonen, at all. He was on the other side of the net. He was backdoor, and Power was trying to cut him off backdoor. Okay, if Power would have maybe overplayed and left the back door wide open for Larkin, different story. Then you can criticize Power. I had to watch this clip 4 or 5 times over to figure out where you can blame Power for that. It was Owen Power the one who had an awful turnover at center ice? No, that was Ryan McLeod. Was Owen Power the one who got absolutely dusted and put into a blender along the boards? No, that was Connor Clifton. Was Owen Power the one in net, the supposedly big-sized goaltender in net who let an easy one go over his right shoulder. No, that was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I don't. Some of the criticism that goes Power's way is fair. I do think that he needs to do a better job of being a more physical defenseman. He gets bullied in front of his own net a lot, and I agree with that. I understand that. This wasn't a time where that had to do with the goal, though. This is just unfair criticism. This is sort of you're looking for a lightning rod, and it was the same way with Dylan Cousins. Now he's in Ottawa. It was the same way. I just realized I have my sunglasses on. How did that happen? But it was the same way with Cousins. It was the same way with Sam Reinhart for a long time. And it's just some of that criticism is absolutely fair. But I think there's so much that goes Power's way that is unwarranted and not fair. Like, I really honestly think that a lot of times fans are just looking for a player to sort of aim all of their frustrations are at, and they choose the player who's not, he's not gritty and tough. We need this grit and toughness and all this sort of stuff. If grit and toughness were the biggest keys to winning, how come no one just claimed Ryan Reeves on waivers? Like, if grit and toughness is the key to winning, then how come the Sabres didn't make the playoffs when they had Steve Ott and John Scott on the roster? Like, it's and Zenon Konopka, there's a name. I saw him beat the drum before the game once, and I was like, where have we gone to in this world that we're having Zenon Konopka do that? And I guarantee that probably, if you polled Sabres fans and asked who is Zenon Konopka, I would bet the number who know that name is under 10%, probably way under it. But I just do because I'm a nerd. And it's obviously very frustrating to watch this team exist and be what they are. They are the most frustrating team in sports to watch because there's talent there. There is. But they don't use it. They don't know how to use it. They don't care to use it. I don't know. But I did want to come on here today and talk about how some of the criticism of Owen Power is really not all that fair. I think that I understand the frustration with him not being physical enough. Power's skill set is just in different areas. Power is more of a power play quarterback, as the name would imply. Puck driving defenseman. He's not as much of a stay at home shutdown defenseman. And I think part of it is because of his frame, he's built like a more shutdown defenseman. And I think some people expect him to be that. I also think because Power is a former first overall pick, I think people kind of expect him to be Rasmus Dahlin, and he's not. He's Owen Power. And I think it's a couple of things. It's that, and also, are we ever going to find an actual defenseman to play with Owen Power? Or what are we doing here? I don't. Second half of the Bonnies and Duquesne game just tipped off, by the way. It is so ridiculous to me that we are still sitting here. The last 3 years, we've said the same thing. Get a real partner for Owen Power. Get a real partner for Owen Power. Get a real partner for Owen Power. And yet it never happens. It is so ridiculous that still somehow Kevin Adams has neglected to find a legitimate defensive partner for Owen Power. He needs someone who is a good stay-at-home shutdown defenseman, not someone like Matthias Samuelsson who likes to pretend to be a shutdown defenseman but really couldn't put together the word defense if it slapped him in the face. So you need a legitimate defensive stalwart to be with Power. I mean, how many times did we see Owen Power play with Henri Jokiharju, which was probably the worst defensive pair in the NHL? And yet we saw that over and over and over again. And now we're seeing Power partner. I don't even know who he was on a pairing with last night. I have no idea. You need someone who's actually a good stay-at-home defenseman, not someone who likes to pretend that they're a good stay-at-home defenseman. And Connor Clifton, I'm at least assuming, was probably Power's defensive partner last night. And I don't think Connor Clifton's a top 4 defenseman. My take on Connor Clifton, I think Clifton is a good third pairing defenseman. I thought he played really well early in the season. And I think that Clifton is a guy who is good on your third pair and can easily get moved up to the top 4 if somebody gets hurt. I don't think he's a consistent top 4 defenseman, though. I think that's what they signed him to be, and the result has been definitely disappointing. I just dropped my phone. The result has been disappointing so far, and I think that Buffalo's got to, that's one of the things the Sabres have got to go out and do, is they've got to go out and find a real defensive partner for Owen Power, because this is getting absolutely ridiculous. And I know we have a general manager who, would much rather complain and whine and make excuses for why his job is so hard than actually, God forbid, do his job. But I think it's something that needs to be done. And I said this, if for anyone, and I'll make this point really quick, for anyone who might have watched Sports Hour at WNYF on Tuesday night, when Jenna Polito and I were talking about the Sabres, I mentioned how, Kevin Adams, it's his favorite line about how he likes to talk about how hard his job is and how much, it's not that easy, it's not that simple, and trades are hard to make in the NHL, or whatever garbage line he usually likes to make. And I went on there and I said, okay, so if it was, with that logic, it should be okay for everyone to say, you know what, my job's just too hard. I can't get anything done. I just can't do it. My job is like, it's too hard. I am the station manager here at FRS. And one of the things I'm responsible for is uploading shows to YouTube. Do I say, uploading shows to YouTube, there's a lot to learn, and editing them, it's really hard. It's not something I can do. No, it's my job. I go and do it because it's my job. And that's the same logic with Kevin Adams. It's like, making a trade in the NHL is so hard. Boo-hoo. Cry about it. It's your job. Do it. I don't care. If you can't do it, then we'll find somebody else to do it. So that's my point on that. I'm not a fan of Kevin Adams' consistent pity parties. I don't care what he has to say. If he thinks his job is so hard and impossible to do, that is great. Write about it in your diary and then get back to work. I honestly could not care less. Sabres discussion over. So we're going to take a quick break, and then the rest of the show will be talking about March Madness. I have a few teams that I have my eye on for potential sleepers in March Madness. Going to talk about why the Bonnies are pretty much out of it as far as anything at large, and an update on that game. They're down by 9. There's about 16:30 to go in the game. They're down 39-30. So still plenty of time, but things are, time is a-wasting for St. Bonaventure. So hopefully they can find a way to come back. And I will come back in just a few minutes. Thanks for listening to Big Blue Sports here on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.
Photographed by children light, held the shadow of snail near their eye, crumbled soul on hollow ground, swallowed paper conscious frown, in the cold on a winter's night, kiss of gold with pale green light. St. Paul's waiting I come home, felt the force of calming tone. Oh, when it comes, then it comes. Oh, when it comes, then it comes. Oh, when it comes. We trudge ourselves on Summit Hill, wind would howl its open shrill. Imagine life in those cobblestones. His father lived to paint their homes. it numbed our bones. We'd creep inside after smoke would pass to see how long my time could last. Oh, when it comes, then it comes. 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 Oh, then it comes.
Tune in every Friday at noon to catch one of Fredonia's hottest radio shows, High Noon Friday. Catch the community voices on local news. Keep updated on the latest sports games, the weather, world affairs and international news, and other entertaining segments like trivia and just the facts. High Noon Friday, every Friday at noon, on 88.9 WCVF and 89.5 WDVL.
Hi, I'm CJ from Carpool, and you're listening to 88.9 WCVF, The Voice.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports. A quick update on the Bonnies. Just under 16 minutes to go in the game. Bonnies are down 7. It is 39-32 in favor of Duquesne. So fingers crossed things start to turn around maybe a little bit, but I'm not too 100% sure on that. Time is definitely a little bit a wasting. So we'll take a look at March Madness, and I know I haven't really talked about the Bills. We'll talk about the Bills first, and then we'll take a break. So what Buffalo has done so far this offseason, the biggest thing I said was the defensive line. The defensive line tends to vanish in a lot of the bigger games. And I think that's something that Buffalo has really needed to work on, and they've addressed it so far. They signed a defensive end from the Rams, Michael, and I cannot remember how to pronounce his last name. It looks like, for any Sabres fans, if you remember Jochen Hecht, it's that, but with an O at the beginning too. It's like I think it's pronounced like Michael Hoyt, something like that. Something like that. But he is, a depth defensive lineman who's seen to be pretty good. They also made 2 other signings in the D-line, signing Larry Ogunjobi, a defensive tackle, away from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Ogunjobi previously played for the Browns, and he was very good when he was in Cleveland. He was very good. He played for the Browns. He played for the Bengals, and he was very good with those 2 teams. A little disappointing with the Steelers last year. That's why they let him go, and now he signs with Buffalo. But what I saw is that he's better equipped to play in a system similar to Buffalo's. Pittsburgh runs a 3-4 defensive scheme, whereas Buffalo primarily operates out of the 4-3. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Ogunjobi can play alongside Ed Oliver on the Bills' interior defensive line, which really, really, really needs to start making impacts in big games because it's been so many years where they just kind of don't. The other major signing that was made was one that kind of surprised me. A bigger name who has struggled with injuries as the Bills signed former Pro Bowl defensive end Joey Bosa to a 1-year deal away from the LA Chargers. Bosa is a type of player who, when he is healthy, he's very good, but he's had a problem staying healthy. He's had a lot of injuries so far in his career, and that's led to some major concerns. That's why the Chargers let him go. So, an apparently crazy deal. Apparently, the San Francisco 49ers, who, of course, Joey's brother Nick plays the same position, defensive end. the 49ers apparently had a deal in place for Joey Bosa, and then they thought they had a deal in place, and so they released Leonard Floyd because they thought they were going to sign Joey Bosa, and then the Bills came in last minute with an offer that Bosa couldn't refuse. So Bosa signed with the Bills instead of going to the 49ers. And so now San Francisco, not only did they not get Bosa, but now they've lost Leonard Floyd. So kind of some interesting management there by San Francisco. Some very bizarre management for sure, I would say. But the other move the Bills made, signing another former Charger, Josh Palmer, a wide receiver who's actually from Ontario, which is kind of interesting, paying him $12 million per year, which is a little bit of an overpay for him. I like the signing as a player. I think Palmer can be a very solid receiver, and I'm curious to see where they go elsewhere as far as upgrading the wide receiver room. The biggest thing, so the draft coming up, it's a very good draft for defensive linemen, and I think the Bills will attack that. I did see the Bills just signed safety Derek Forrest as well, for a depth signing. Of course, Damar Hamlin re-signed with the Bills as well. They're hoping Colt Bishop takes that next step forward, former second-round pick, and I think the objective, if I'm Buffalo, I'm looking at the defensive backs in round one. There's some pretty good ones. We're around where the Bills are going to be picking at 30. You may have to move up a little bit. One that I've had my eye on, one that I've talked to our sports director, Mitch Rusi, about is Nick Emenwari, safety from South Carolina. He's one who the Bills may absolutely have to go up and may have to make a trade. And I just got a text from Mitch that said that Cooper Flagg might have just gotten hurt, which would be devastating. We gotta put the Bills talk on pause here for just a quick second. But so we're gonna interesting. So we'll have to take a look at that because that's gonna really change the discussion around March Madness. But okay. So my thoughts for the Bills is I think you go DB in round one. I think you attack defensive line. And I'm wondering if they're not done. Geez, the Pawnees have shot the ball terribly today. They've shot 29%. Not good. And Duquesne shot 42%. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Bills moving forward. So I'm going to take a short break. Going to take a look at what happened to Cooper Flagg and talk about that because we're going to spend the rest of the show talking about March Madness. So we're going to take a look at that, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Thanks for listening to Big Blue Sports here on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.
Slugging down fruit juice, extra tall, extra wide, blue-eyed devil. Blue-eyed devil. Siam, another trouble frying, another devil. King of Siam, forget the trouble frying, another devil, another devil, another blue-eyed devil. Blue-eyed devil. Blue-eyed. Blue-eyed. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. Spoon to the ladder, to the ladder, to the sun. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. Spoon to the ladder, to the ladder, to the sun. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. Spoon to the ladder, to the ladder, to the sun. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. Spoon to the ladder, to the ladder, to the sun. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. Spoon to the ladder, to the ladder, to the sun. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. Spoon to the ladder, to the ladder, to the sun. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. Spoon to the ladder, to the ladder, to the sun. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. Spoon to the ladder, to the ladder, to the sun. Devil laughs down in a pool of sun. So pack up your suitcase, the round is trying to go before the sun goes down.
Hey, I'm Daniel Nunley. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and you're listening to 88.9 WCVF The Voice.
It's gonna put a knee in the ground.
And welcome back to Big Blue Sports on WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia. So, of course, some major breaking news right now is that Cooper Flagg did get injured in the Duke versus Georgia Tech game in the ACC tournament. The Duke is losing at the half right now, and that game doesn't really matter for Duke. They're probably going to be a number one seed regardless. Right now, they are number one in the country, and Cooper Flagg, the potential player of the year, left the game with an ankle injury. I just saw in checking social media that he was helped to the locker room, and Cooper Flagg is not able to put any weight on that ankle. That could potentially be a devastating blow to the Duke Blue Devils and their chances to go after another national championship. So definitely we'll monitor that, and we'll see. Hopefully we get some updates later tonight, and hopefully Cooper is okay. So in March Madness, of course, the Bonnies right now losing to Duquesne. I want to talk about the NCAA tournament as a whole. So obviously it worked out better. It worked out last year. It was awesome when we had Selection Sunday on the Sunday we were coming back from break. So I had an episode of Big Blue where I picked my bracket. I can't really do that this year because we're going to be on break. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to talk about some of my rules that I have for picking my bracket. So I have 3 rules that I live by. The one is that my championship pick will never win. That's just a world of fact of the universe. I've talked about it before, but I have been doing brackets since 2013. I've been doing them I did them with my dad for years. I did them with my parents for years. And I never correctly picked a national champion. I had a 3-year stretch. Where my championship pick made it to the championship game and lost 3 years in a row. I picked Wisconsin in 2015. They lost to Duke in the title game. I picked UNC in 2016. They lost to Villanova in the title game on the Chris Jenkins buzzer beater 3. And I picked Gonzaga in 2017, and they lost to UNC in the title game. And I've had some bad ones. I picked Virginia in 2018 when they lost to UMBC in the first round. I've had some rough ones. I picked 2021. I picked Iowa when they had Luka Garza. They lost to Oregon in round 2. I picked Auburn in 2022. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. Whatever year Auburn lost to Miami in the second round is when I picked them to win. I think that was 2022 when they were a number 2 seed. I'm pretty sure. Yes, it was, because I picked Houston in 2023, and they lost also to Miami, I believe, in the Sweet 16. I picked Auburn last year, and of course they had their ridiculous loss to Yale in the first round. So my other rules that I have, and I learned this the hard way. I don't do it after Virginia lost in 2018. I do not pick the number 1 overall seed to win the tournament. I don't. I just and in 2015 I did that when Kentucky was undefeated. I did not pick them. I picked them to lose to Wisconsin in the Final Four, and I got it exactly right. I don't pick the number 1 overall seed. The other one that I have, and this is probably controversial, the other rule of thumb that I have, never trust the Big East. I don't pick any Big East schools to ever go on runs. The one exception is Villanova. I don't pick any Big East schools. Marquette, Seton Hall, any of those other Big East schools, Xavier, none of them. I don't pick any of them to go on big runs. I don't trust the Big East at all. It seems like it happens every year where a Big East team is a favorite to win the title and they lose early. It happens all the time. So there's a couple teams that I do have my eye on. The first one I want to talk about is Drake. They were the Missouri Valley Conference champion. They're always a very tough team, a very good team, a good, sort of team that flies under the radar as a mid-major school. And they were 28-3 in the regular season. They had, they had some decent wins. They had a quad 1 win over Vanderbilt in the neutral site, which was a dominant win. They had a game that they won at Kansas State as well. And this is a Drake team. Every time Drake is in the tournament, they play somebody very close. And I think they're a good team. Another mid-major that I really want to talk about is McNeese. So McNeese out of the Southland, 25-6 overall, 19-1 in a Southland conference that is, kind of weak, supposedly. But they had some close games. They played at Alabama, a top 10 team, and lost by 8. They played a neutral site game against Mississippi State, a tournament lock, and lost by 3. They're a team that is potentially one to watch as things move on. Also, one final thought before I wrap up. North Carolina does not belong in this tournament. They have one quad 1 win. I don't care that they have 21 wins out of the ACC. I do not care whatsoever. I think it is ridiculous that they do and that they even have a shot. I don't think UNC belongs in this tournament whatsoever. And before I go, my national championship pick, Auburn, like I was going to pick anybody else. I'm an Auburn fan, so I'm 100% going to be picking the Auburn Tigers to win the national championship. That will do it for the show this afternoon. I want to thank everybody who makes the show possible, as well as everyone tuning in. We will catch you in 2 weeks for our next episode of the show. We'll talk about the tournament to that point. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We will catch you all in 2 weeks. This is Big Blue Sports on WCVF 88.9, the campus and community voice of Fredonia. We'll see you in 2 weeks.